I was 19 years old when they handed me the orders. That detail matters. People listen differently when they know how young you were. I hadn't even finished my first year in uniform. My boots were still stiff, my rifle still felt unfamiliar in my hands, and I still believed that every mission had a clear beginning and a clear end. This one didn't. The paper didn't list a location name. Just coordinates. No grid reference I recognized. No nearby base. No civilian markers. When I asked the clerk where we were going, he didn't look at me. He just stamped the paper and said, "Jungle Patrol." That was it. We lifted off before dawn. The helicopter was full, 6 of us sitting knee to knee, faces half lit by red cabin lights. No one talked much. That should have been my first warning. I studied them one by one. Lieutenant Marcus Hale sat closest to the cockpit. Early 30s. Clean uniform. Calm posture. The kind of officer who didn't raise his voice because he never needed to. His eyes stayed fixed forward, unblinking. Sergeant Owen Cross sat across from me. Older. Scar running from his ear to his jawline. He smelled like tobacco and old rain. His hands rested on his rifle like it was part of him. Corporal Elias Moreno, our radio operator, kept adjusting his headset even though it wasn't on. He hummed quietly, same 3 notes, over and over. Specialist Aaron Klein, the medic, smiled too much. He tapped his foot in a rhythm I couldn't follow and whispered jokes to himself. Private Jonah Reed sat beside me. Same age as me. Same nervous energy. He kept cracking his knuckles until Sergeant Cross shot him a look. No one asked where we were going. That should have scared me more than it did. The jungle appeared beneath us like a dark ocean. No clearings. No roads. Just endless green swallowing everything. As we descended, the helicopter shook, not violently, but unevenly. Like something was pushing back. The pilot muttered something I couldn't hear. Then the radio crackled. Not words. Breathing. The sound cut out just as quickly. Lieutenant Hale didn't react. We landed near a river that barely moved. The water looked thick, almost black, reflecting nothing, not even the sky. When the rotors shut down, the silence hit us hard. No birds. No insects. No wind. Just quiet. A quiet so deep it felt like pressure in my ears. Sergeant Cross stepped out first and scanned the tree line. He frowned. "This place remembers," he said. I laughed. A nervous laugh. "What does that mean, Sergeant?" He didn't answer. We moved into formation and started the patrol. The jungle closed behind us almost immediately. Branches snapped back into place. Vines swayed even though nothing touched them. After 10 minutes, I realized something was wrong. I couldn't hear our footsteps anymore. The ground swallowed sound. Lieutenant Hale raised a fist and we stopped. He listened. Then he said something that still visits me in my sleep. "Don't wander," he said quietly. "It doesn't like that." I didn't ask who it was. None of us did. That night, as we set up camp, I noticed something strange. No one volunteered for first watch. Sergeant Cross simply sat down, leaned against a tree, and stared into the darkness. The others avoided looking at the jungle. Except Moreno. He stared straight into it. And smiled. I lay awake, gripping my rifle, listening to the sound of breathing that didn't belong to any of us. And somewhere deep between the trees, something whispered my name. Not loud. Not threatening. Curious. No one slept that night. Not because of fear. But because the jungle wouldn't allow it. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt something shift. Not movement. Not sound. Just attention. Like the forest noticed when my mind tried to drift away. I opened my eyes again and again, heart pounding, convinced I had missed something important. Sergeant Cross never changed position. He sat against the tree, rifle across his knees, eyes fixed on the darkness. Unblinking. I whispered, "Sergeant, don't you want someone to take over watch?" He shook his head slowly. "If I stop looking," he said, "it gets closer." That was all. The jungle at night was different. During the day, it felt heavy. Thick. Like humidity pressing down on your lungs. At night, it felt tight. Trees leaned inward, their branches overlapping like ribs. Shadows layered over shadows until depth disappeared completely. I couldn't tell how far anything was. Moreno sat near the radio, tuning it even though command had gone silent hours ago. His fingers trembled, but his voice was calm. "Hear that?" he whispered. I leaned closer. Static. Then, something beneath it. A low murmur. Almost words. "Moreno," I said. "Turn it off." He smiled without looking at me. "It's already on," he said. It never turned off. Private Reed started rocking back and forth sometime after midnight. At first, I thought he was cold. Then I noticed he was counting. 27, 28, 27. He kept losing his place. I touched his shoulder. He flinched so hard he nearly fired his weapon. "Don't touch me," he snapped. His eyes were wide, glassy. "It hates that." "What hates that?" He swallowed. Being surprised. Lieutenant Hale finally stood up. No announcement. No orders. He just rose, adjusted his helmet, and stepped toward the tree-line. "Sir," I called. He paused. For a moment, I thought he would turn back. Instead, he said, "We've walked this path before." Then he disappeared into the jungle. Sergeant Cross didn't stop him. None of us did. I waited for the sound of footsteps. There were none. Morning came without warning. No gradual light. No birds greeting dawn. Just a sudden change, as if someone had flipped a switch. The jungle looked wrong. The trees were the same, but our camp wasn't where I remembered setting it up. The river was closer. Too close. Our footprints led away in multiple directions. Moreno swore under his breath. "We didn't move," he said. "I logged our position every hour." Sergeant Cross crouched near the ground, studying the dirt. "These aren't our tracks," he muttered. They were boot prints. Military issue. Too many. Layered on top of each other like we'd been marching in circles for years. Private Reed started crying around noon. No sobbing. No tears. Just soundless shaking, his mouth open, eyes fixed on something only he could see. He pointed into the trees. "They're standing wrong," he whispered. "What?" I asked. "The men," he said. "They're facing the wrong way." There was nothing there. At least, nothing I could see. We found the skull just before dusk. Half buried. Clean. Human. A helmet lay nearby. Standard. Inside the helmet was a name scratched deep into the plastic. Reed. Private Reed screamed. He ran. Not into the jungle. Through it. Branches bent aside for him, parting like they recognized him. We chased him for maybe 30 seconds. Then he was gone. No sound. No struggle. Just absence. Lieutenant Hale did not return. That night, Sergeant Cross finally spoke more than a sentence. "This place doesn't kill you," he said quietly. "It teaches you how to disappear." Moreno nodded like he understood. Medic Klein laughed. I didn't sleep. And sometime after midnight, I realized something worse than everything else. The jungle wasn't watching us anymore. It was waiting. After Reed vanished, we stopped pretending this was a patrol. No formation. No standard spacing. We walked close, too close, like separation itself was dangerous. Moreno kept glancing behind us, checking the same tree again and again. "It's changing positions," he muttered. "What is?" I asked. He shook his head. "The memories." By late afternoon, the jungle opened up. That alone felt wrong. Jungles don't open. They choke, crawl, press inward. But this clearing was wide and circular, like something had pushed the forest back and told it to stay there. In the center stood a bunker. Concrete. Old. Cracked and half swallowed by vines. Military design. But wrong era. Sergeant Cross froze when he saw it. "I've been here," he said. Moreno looked at him sharply. "You said you hadn't." Cross didn't answer. The bunker door resisted at first, then opened too easily, like it wanted us inside. The air smelled stale. Not rot. Not mold. Paper. Old paper. We switched on our flashlights. The walls were lined with names. Carved. Scratched. Written in charcoal, ink, even blood. Hundreds of them. Units. Dates. Patrol numbers. All different. All ending the same way. No extraction. Medic Klein stopped smiling. We found the lockers next. Rusty, dented, numbered. Inside the first. Dog tags. I picked them up without thinking. They were heavy. Warm. I wiped the dirt away and read the name. Private Jonah Reed. Moreno swore loudly. The tags beneath them were worse. SGT, Owen Cross. LT Marcus Hale. My hand started shaking. "These are fake," I said. "They have to be." Sergeant Cross stared at the floor. "I don't remember the first time," he said quietly. "But I remember the ending." The journals were stacked in a crate. Dozens of them. Different handwriting. Different years. Same story. A patrol enters the jungle. Men behave strangely. The jungle watches. The jungle chooses. One journal mentioned me. Not my name. My description. Young. New. Still afraid of dying. I dropped the book. Moreno laughed softly. "That's why you're still here," he said. "It hasn't decided what to do with you yet." That night, the jungle came closer. I don't mean metaphorically. The trees physically leaned inward. Roots broke the surface of the ground, twisting like fingers. Shadows moved against our flashlights. Sergeant Cross sat with his rifle pointed at nothing. "They come out when you understand," he said. "Knowing makes you visible." Medic Klein paced. "I don't want to do this again," he kept saying. "I don't want to remember the end." "What end?" I asked. He stopped pacing. Looked at me. And whispered. "The one where only one of us leaves." Moreno disappeared before dawn. The radio screamed once. Not static. Screaming. When it stopped, the jungle went silent again. Only 3 of us left. Sergeant Cross. Medic Klein. And me. Cross handed me his rifle. "I won't need it this time," he said. Before I could ask what he meant, he stepped into the trees. They opened for him. Closed behind him. I never heard him die. Klein and I ran. Not away. Forward. The jungle fought us every step. Branches cut our faces. Vines wrapped our legs. Something whispered from the ground. When we reached the river, Klein stopped. "It won't let both of us go," he said. He smiled, one last time. "I'm tired." I turned. I didn't watch him die. I heard it. The jungle breathing in. They found me 3 days later. Dehydrated. Bleeding. Screaming about names carved into walls. They said I was the only survivor. They said the jungle wasn't on any map. They said I imagined it. But sometimes, at night, I still hear the radio. And it's calling my name. I don't remember crossing the edge of the jungle. There was no clear line. No sudden change. No moment where the trees stopped and the world began again. I only remember falling. Not collapsing. falling forward, like the ground decided I was done being carried. When I woke up, my face was pressed into wet dirt that didn't smell like the jungle. The air was thinner. Lighter. Wrong. I tried to sit up and screamed. My legs didn't feel like mine. They found me like that. 3 soldiers from a recovery unit, weapons raised, eyes wide, fingers tight on triggers. One of them said my name. I answered. That seemed to frighten them more than if I hadn't. They wrapped me in a thermal blanket even though I wasn't cold. Loaded me into a truck. Gave me water I couldn't keep down. No one asked what happened. Not once. At the forward base, a man in a clean uniform took my statement. He didn't write anything down. He just listened. When I finished, when my voice broke trying to explain the bunker, the names, the jungle that learned you, he nodded slowly. Then he said, "You were found alone. Disoriented. No signs of hostile contact." "That's not," I started. He raised a hand. "This area has no record of deployment," he said calmly. "There is no jungle patrol in our system." I felt something inside me tear. "What about the others?" I asked. "Lieutenant Hale. Sergeant Cross." His eyes didn't change. There were no others. They flew me out before sunrise. I stared out the window the entire time, waiting to see green swallow the sky again. It didn't. But I felt it. Like pressure behind my eyes. Like something stretching when I moved farther away. At the hospital, they cleaned me up. Photographed my wounds. Cuts that didn't look like cuts. Bruises shaped like hands. Roots. The doctor avoided eye contact. "You've experienced acute combat stress," he said. "Your mind filled in the gaps." "The names were real," I said. "They carved them into the walls." He wrote something down then. Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the clearing. The bunker. The lockers. I heard Sergeant Cross's voice telling me not to look away. I woke up screaming on the 3rd night. They restrained me on the 4th. That's when the interviews changed. Different men. Same questions. "Did anyone tell you this jungle was haunted? Did you believe you were being watched? Did you feel chosen?" I stopped answering. Because every time I spoke, I felt the jungle listening. I knew something was wrong when I stopped dreaming. Not nightmares. Nothing. Just darkness. Like my mind was holding its breath. Then the memories started slipping. Not fading. Rearranging. Dates didn't line up. Faces blurred. Except one thing. The jungle never changed. It stayed sharp. Clear. Alive. More real than the hospital bed. The board declared me unfit for service 3 months later. Severe psychological trauma, they said. Delusional fixation. They used words like hallucination and survivor's guilt. They didn't use the word truth. When they transferred me, the driver avoided the rearview mirror. As the gates closed behind the hospital, I felt it again. That familiar pressure. Not close. Not yet. But patient. They tell me I've been here for 12 years. I believe them. Most days. The hospital is old. Built when people thought silence cured things. Long corridors. High windows. White walls that absorb sound instead of reflecting it. They gave me a room near the end of the West Wing. No mirror. They said I asked for that. Every morning, a nurse brings my medication in a small paper cup. She says my name gently, like it might break if spoken too loudly. Daniel. Sometimes I don't answer right away. Sometimes I'm not sure it belongs to me anymore. I take the pills. I always do. They make the edges of the world softer. Blunt. Like trying to cut paper with a spoon. But they don't stop the jungle. I started writing because it was the only thing that made the nights shorter. At first, it was just fragments. A name. A tree. A sound. The doctors encouraged it. They said writing helps organize trauma. Gives it boundaries. They don't read what I write anymore. They stopped after I described the bunker in too much detail. After I listed the names in the right order. After I wrote things I shouldn't know. There are other patients here. Some scream. Some stare. Some rock gently, endlessly. A few of them arrived young. Too young. They smell wrong. Like wet leaves. Like rust. Like rain that never reaches the ground. One of them sits beside me sometimes in the common room. He doesn't talk. Just watches the trees outside the fence. Yesterday, he whispered something. Did it let you go too? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The doctors say my story changes every time I tell it. That details shift. Faces blur. Timelines collapse. They say that's how mental illness works. But there are things I've never changed. The silence when the helicopter left. The way the jungle leaned inward. The feeling of being noticed. Those stay the same. Always. At night, when the ward is quiet, I hear it again. Not voices. Movement. Roots shifting beneath soil that isn't there. Sometimes the lights flicker, and for just a second, the shadows on the wall don't match the furniture. They look like trees. I asked my doctor once why my room is so far from the others. He hesitated. Then he said, "You sleepwalk." I asked where I go. He didn't answer. I've written this story more times than I can count. Sometimes I finish it. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes the last page is already written when I reach it. In handwriting that isn't mine. They say I'll never leave this place. That my condition is permanent. That the jungle was a delusion created by stress and fear and youth. They say there was no patrol. No bunker. No lost men. But every year, without fail, a new patient arrives. Young. Confused. Military posture. And they always ask the same question. Where am I? And before anyone can stop me, I answer. You got out, I say. For now. I don't know if I'm insane. I don't know if this is punishment or protection. All I know is this. The jungle doesn't hunt everyone. It studies. It learns. And when it's ready, it sends you back.